Yes, we
All right, good
can.
afternoon. And it's been a great day. Thanks to um, the organizer, Sister Adinka, for inviting me and all the team. I must say, I've been blessed already. I actually feel maybe the meeting should just carry on without me speaking. It's been such a blessing. Um, so in the time that I have in the next 30 minutes, is basically to look at the topic overcoming physical and mental barriers you or others have set for you. And I want to start basically by just looking at the topic itself. Number one, what do we mean by barriers? And two, would be okay, is it something to overcome, something to respect, or something to embrace? And then, just give some principles, about 8 bullet points to finish off. So, you see, when we talk about barriers, what do we really mean? Because barriers, when you look at it by definition, is simply anything that is natural or man-made that keeps something from passing through. So you have something and you don't want something to pass through it, you just create something else so that it doesn't go through. So that could be your gate, it could be a fence. So anything really that obstruct passage or maintain separation is a barrier. So what is the purpose of barrier? Well, one of the basic function is to prevent action from taking place or protect the system and the people in it from consequences. So, words that you can relate with barriers include barricade, blockage, fence, hurdle, limit, obstacle, roadblock, wall, and so on and so forth. For many of us, we've traveled on the train and we've seen people stopping us, not allowing us to go through the, until you show your ticket. That's actually a barrier. That man is a barrier to you. These days, it's a machine. So you have to put in your tickets, otherwise you won't be able to get through. That's a barrier. It's an automatic barrier that makes decision based on whether you have your ticket or not. So, having defined that way, I'm just kind of building a story around what is that barrier then? Because before, like C.S. Lewis says, if you really find anything and you want to know something about it, the first thing you say, what is it for? What is it actually? And the more you dig in, you actually find out that your perception about that thing may change when you understand it really well. So for me, I want to define barriers. I want to categorize it into three. The first one, I'll call it positive barriers. So these are things in life, because life itself is a journey. We need law and order. We need things to be in order. Otherwise, life would be a total chaos. Therefore, we need barriers actually in our lives. So, like, a question I could throw is that if you call an Uber a taxi, and as the taximan was coming to your house, a good friend of yours called you and said, "Well, I could see this guy coming to your house. Actually, this guy, he didn't pass his driving test." How would you how would you feel? I'm sure you would think, "Oh, no, I don't want to go go with him in a car." The same, if you're going for a surgery or so, a loved one of yours, you have them in the hospital and they need to be operated on, and maybe the surgeon wasn't around, and somebody just ran out, picked the first man on the street, and said, "Okay, operate on her or on him." How would you feel? I'm sure you won't. So the point here is that actually all these things, they are barriers, but they are there for a purpose. So those are positive barriers. There are negative barriers, obviously, because you have people in life because their belief is that that this world is the survival of fittest. The world is broken. Therefore, for them everything is competition. For them to move on in life, they have to create something very difficult so that to make it difficult for other people, and that is because they are obviously not. They're not confident in being able to survive where there are many other people. All right. So, those ones are negative barriers. There's that mental barrier, which you put there, and that's the last one I'll be talking about. And those are the ones that we place on ourselves, mentally. Sometimes it's biological, it's natural, maybe like you having depression, negative thoughts when you muddle up in your thinking and so on. There are others that are environmental. There are some that are social constructed. They are socially constructed. So because I'm a woman, I can't do ABCD. Because I'm Black. Because I have disability. It could be different things to different people, and it shows itself in the form of I can't. So when you start telling yourself, no one is actually saying you can't. It's you saying I can't. That's a problem. There's another one that says, but I have to. Okay, so either you say I can't or you say I have to. And the worst one is when you combine these two. I can't, but I have to at the same time. So that's like a psychological conflict. So these are the broad definition I want to give barriers so that we actually know that this thing in life, there are things that we can actually embrace rather than seeing barriers as problem. We could actually see barriers as things that we want to embrace, things we want to work with. It could actually be something on the road to our success. That's my thesis this afternoon. I know that's a bit controversial, but again, that's why I'm an academic. We have to make things a bit complicated. That's what we are paid for. So basically for me, I think it was Sister Ruth that made it really clear earlier on, and I'll be talking about that later. But let's talk about Sister Fola, Pastor Fola, that talked about self-awareness. I think the first thing for me is really in overcoming barrier is first and foremost take responsibility for your life. I think that's the first thing. Just take responsibility for your life. Don't be like Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve, when problem came, Adam blamed Eve, Eve blamed the serpent and so on. But God won't even look at all that. When he was going to mete out his judgment, he directly spoke to Adam, he spoke to Eve. Each of them got their judgments, the consequences for their actions. So when things happen in life, like it's been well spoken, particularly by Sister Ruth earlier on, you need to take responsibility for your life. Do that self-reflection yourself. Don't try to pass the buck by saying it's somebody's fault, it's that person's fault. Take responsibility for everything, for your life. That's, for me, is the first thing. Now, remember the way I described the negative barriers earlier on. I said, well, some people plan, for themselves, and because they are being selfish, they have strategy on how to get by in life. Okay? To be quite honest with you, I want to give them a bit of a credit. It's negative, but I want to give them a bit of credit. Why? Because I think they are proactive. It's just their methodology that is wrong. They have a purpose, they have plan. So just like these guys have a plan, be proactive, think ahead. Don't be somebody who is reactive. You are reacting to something that is happening and you become a victim. No, be proactive, plan ahead. What do you want to do? What does success really mean? Take responsibility to identify what you really want and what success means. So that's the first thing for me, which is take responsibility. Be proactive, plan ahead, and not reactive. So the second one is purpose. I think that's been mentioned by Pastor Fola earlier on. So purpose basically is what are you about? What is your use in life? What is it about really? And the reason why that is important is that sometimes, even when some people, you say, I want this, I would love to do this, and that thing is right there in your nose because you have not defined it. You don't really know what you want. Even when something that is good for you come around, you do not know how to accept it. You don't know how to access it. So what is the purpose? What is the plan? What is that thing that you want? Because that is what will really tell you whether there's a barrier or not. What do you want? Do you want to, let's give an example. I want to travel down London and I want to go via train. Of course, there's going to be a barrier by the gate checking your ticket. So is that a problem? No, it's not a problem. So, but the first thing first, why are you going to London? You know why you're going to. Is it worth it? Yes. Then, then the idea of looking for the fund and paying for tickets. Once you get your ticket, then the barrier has no or other option that to open to you. So know your purpose, then be committed to your purpose. So when you know your purpose, be committed to it. I'll come back to that on what I mean by that later. And then the last one is actually a metric, which is when you have it, if you say, I want something in life, when you actually have it, do you know when you have it? So if somebody says, say, okay, oh, I'm a good runner, I want to go to the Olympics and so on. Yeah, you should know what it means to win gold, a gold medal in Olympics. What does it mean? The last guy that won gold in Olympics, what was the time? 9.3 seconds, where if you are running at 11 seconds, you are not moving closer. Okay, so you need to do more so that you can get there. So metric is very important, meaning you know your purpose, you are committed to that purpose, but also know how to measure that purpose. Know what success means, because your success cannot be a better pass my neighbor. It can't be that if the guy down the road, he has something, yeah, when I have it, then is that your success? No, that can't be your success. Your success should be yours, and it should be well written down. And when you are clear about your purpose, I would say then be sure, when you are measuring your success, that you don't just look at one part of your life. Don't just look at one. What was the example that's been mentioned earlier on? And the same way we actually measure failure as well. So we look at failure in the short drama that was played out. So that woman was actually just put down, maybe because she didn't have husband, or she's had two husbands or something like that. And for the rest of the ladies in the room, she was a failure. They've just judged her by only one metric. But actually, life, the whole life is full of so many things you could judge yourself on. So first and foremost, don't let people judge you based on one metric, but you yourself identify all the metrics, all the areas of your life, okay? And make sure that you have purpose in each of them, that you are committed to each of the target that you set in each area, and you know the metrics of what it means to be successful in each area. So for example, personally, I have 5 areas, and the way I look at it is basically I say, okay, first one is relationship. By relationship, I mean how I relate with, things and family. So under that, I have faith, family, and friend, FFF. Faith, family, and friend, which is my God. What is your relationship with God, and how important is that to you? Okay, and what is the purpose? Do we really need to be a Christian? Let's be honest. Do you have to? Because sometimes we think it's compulsory. You have to go to church, or you have to do all this. Do you really have to? You don't have to, honestly. Then, if you then choose that you have to, it has to mean something to you. You need to have a metric upon which you measure what it means to have a relationship with God. And then when you know that, you find that out, don't let anyone else tell you, yeah? Develop yourself to the point that you know that, then be committed to it. Family, what does it mean to have family? And what does success means in relationship with your family? And that includes your husband, your wife, and your children. And then friends, people that actually you relate with, people that are around you, people that will support you, people that will catch you when you are falling, people that will support you in times of trouble. What's your relationship with them? Okay, and how would you measure that it's going well? And be committed once you know, be committed to it. Okay, so that's the 3F, and that's under relationship. And the next one is about finance, career. So I put the second one there is career, and another 2F, which is finance and finance. So finance is how do you, your source of income, which I would call a job, is different from work. Work, as far as I'm concerned in the Bible, is that we are called to work. Your work is to manifest the glory of God, to make a difference wherever you go. And it doesn't even need to bring money to you. And you can never be fired for it. You can never retire from that. That's your work. Your job is something that brings money. And then you have a career, you are building it and so on. So how important is that to you? What does it mean? When you say, oh, I want to be successful, what does success mean? When you get there, do you really know? All right. So you might think, for example, okay, the peak of it, or you become a professor, right? Fine. Or maybe you want to be vice chancellor. Maybe you want to be something like that. So that's, your career prospect. Okay. So finance is actually part of like a career, but it's not a career. It's just a ministry in your life, something that you are good at. So you may be paid for it, you may not be paid for it, but you are happy doing it. And when you do it, you are a blessing, to your generation. Okay, so it's part of that work that I talked about earlier on, work, which is you don't get paid, not necessary for it. Sometimes you get paid, but that's why you are here on earth. Okay, so the next one is health, so which is fitness, eating well, exercise, look after yourself, and so on, health. And then the last one is hobbies, things that you just do for the sake of it. If you like acting, you like making people laugh, whatever, that could also be classified as finance, by the way, like Sister Adeyinka can see how she makes people laugh generally. Okay, and you see how they overlap. Your hobby could then become a finance, something that you are good at, you don't get paid, but it could actually be your career, in terms of job. But by the way, remember, it's also your work, because through that you manifest God's glory on earth. Does that make sense? Okay, so now that we are clear about this, when you divide your life into all these areas, write them down, make them clear, plain. If you're married, sit down with your husband or your wife, regularly review this, and write things that you're going to do to get better on this. Where you are today, make sure that tomorrow you are better than today, even if it is by 1%. What you don't want is that if you are 59 today, tomorrow you don't want to be 58. But don't worry, if you are 59 today and tomorrow you are 59.5, that is very good. And don't worry about Mr. Lagbaja and Sister Tamedo, that is 72. Don't worry about them. You will get there. Once you are one step each time and you are clear about this purpose. So I want to talk about number 4. And again, that's priority. Make sure that once you know all this, align them well. So actually, I have aligned them the way I align them in my life personally, but you can align them you want. So number 1 for me is that relationship, and God is at the top of it. So God, family and friend, all right? And I never make the mistake. So if, for example, there is a decision and I have to make a choice between, my family and, I don't know, my friend, of course, my family, I don't even apologize for that. We don't have to have discussion about it, all right? There's no discussion. There's no argument, all right? The same with God. And I will give you the reason why. The same go down, finance ministry. Sometimes you work in the church, you are very active and so on. That goes to number 2, actually. You can see your job is actually below your family, and I put my job even below, you understand, my God, of course, my family, and I put it below my ministry as well. And the reason is you could be fired from your job. Trust me. And when you get fired from this job, it is your finance, your ministry, things that make you happy that you go back to. It is the family that you go back to. And of course, ultimately, even when that family leaves you, it is God that you go back to. So you need to know how this thing works in hierarchy. Your health is very important, your fitness and so on. The hobby is what I want to talk about. That is very important. Yes, we enjoy sitting in front of TV 3 hours a day. You're on Facebook here, you're on Twitter and blah, 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 and so on. But be careful, because if at the end of a full day or a full week, if the time that you spend on something that is moving you forward in your career, for example, spend with your family, is less than what you spend with hobby, then something is very wrong. When you make your your decision in life, where you live, where you move to, and things that you do is around your hobby and not around your family and not around your God and those things, then you are not setting your priority right. And that's what I mean by you need to be clear about your purpose. You need to be committed to it. You need to set what success looks like and then measure it. Okay? I hope I'm making sense so far. So I just want to go to point 5. I have 8, so I'm I think I'm on time. So 5 is, like Sister Ruth said something earlier on. She said, she said in her life that she did set boundaries, okay? And being now emotionally highly intelligent, she set that boundary. You see, what again, this, when she was just saying it, I said, oh, wow, she maybe possibly look at my notes, because my notes really saying in life, create barriers for yourself. Don't let the world create barrier for you. Yeah, sister. Don't let the world create barrier for you. You create it yourself. So instead of looking at barrier as a problem, yeah, create one for you. I'll give you an example. So the guy that wants to run hurdles, you know this 100 meters, like 110 meters or something, that you jump over something and go on. That wants to win gold in the Olympics. What do you think he will be doing every day? Literally, he will be setting that hurdle in his or her own way and be jumping over it. Okay? So what somebody is going to set for you in the future, what somebody is going to use to test you, to tell you maybe you are not good enough. Okay? Why not set it for yourself? Make sure you pass it before you get to that person. Set the barrier for yourself. Okay? And then when you pass the barrier, then that person has no choice, because that's what they are going to set for you, to basically not let you through. But you already passed that stage anyway. So you wouldn't even need to go through an exam. Am I making sense? So what are the barriers that you can create for yourself? So I'll give you a few principles. I call them principles. So have principles in life. So, and some of these are biblical, if not most of them. The first one is the law of sowing and reaping. It's a good law. It's a very simple principle. Make sure, all right, that you understand that. When you do not sow, yeah, you can't reap. So you've got to work hard in all these areas that we're talking about. You have to put that effort, put the time in, all right? So when you sow, you reap. And that's a universal law. In fact, in the Bible, it didn't say you have to be righteous. All right, it's universal. You don't have to be saved. And you can see it all around the world. Dangote is the richest black man, and many other people that are successful. Sowing, reaping, put the effort, and so on. The second one is the law of multiplication. And that law is basically saying, yes, you sow, you reap, but the more you sow, the more you reap. Okay? The more you put in, the more you get by the grace of God. There's a law of leverage. Check in your life. What are the things that you are good at? What are things that you think, well, I do this really well? Leverage on it. What background do you have? You make people laugh, or somebody that's, you went to a very good school, you have good parents that brought you in a particular way, whatever, that is your advantage. Use it well. That lady, in what Sister Tony was saying earlier on, what she had was that alabaster jar. Actually, another thing that she had, which I think Sister Tony mentioned also, was that she had nothing to lose. She was already down anyway. All right. So, and some people, they have a lot to lose, so they cannot leverage on that. Okay. She had nothing to lose, and she had alabaster jar, and she just poured. So whatever you have, leverage on it. Compensation. Again, be self-aware. We've talked about it earlier. There are people I have met, okay, in life, and I used to be like that as well. That when they want something, rather than look for the criteria to get that thing, they are hoping that the rules will change so that whatever they have will just fit into what they want. Sorry, it doesn't work like that. What you need to do is identify what the criteria are, all right? And then compensate, then look at what you have, subtract what you have from what they want, whatever the difference is, compensate for it. It's a law of compensation. And resilience. Don't give up, because there are times, even when you think, okay, I'm doing very well, I should go for it and get it now. Well, you don't get it. Go for it again. Go for it again. So these are kind of barriers, things that I'm talking about here, barriers that you can have within yourself, things that you've created, they are principles you've created for yourself. And there are other principles, humility, I would say, is something we should all have in life. We should be very humble, know how to say sorry and thank you. Very simple, but it's difficult to say many a times. Do unto others what you want them to do to you. I think that's very important. All this helps you in creating, having a good relationship. If you want to go far in life, we want to go far. I'm not talking about going fast. If you want to go fast, go alone. No problem. You can jump around. But if you really want to go far in life, you need people around you. You need people around you. Trust me. You need people around you. You will go really, really, quickly, but short if you don't have people around you. And to have people around you, you have to be patient, you have to be humble, you have to say sorry when you are wrong, you know how to be grateful to do unto others. May I just define patience before I go to the next point? You see, patience is the difference between your emotion and your action. All right, so it's not really some patience that person is really patient. I'm not. So that's not what we're talking about. Patience is, do I have time? I'll tell you a story about patience. There's this man, okay. So there's this man that, a king, very angry, gets angry easily. And sometimes he just gets angry and kill people. He asks the man, one of his soldiers, to kill them when he's angry. And he's done it. One time he killed his friend. And he was thinking, and 5 minutes after, he felt, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. You know what he did? He then asked the guy that helps him to kill people. Yeah, he moved his house 3 days journey away from his city. So anytime he gets angry, he says, go call him for me. So it takes 3 days to go and get that guy to travel, and then 3 days to come back. So it takes 6 days. So if he still angry after 3 days, say, okay, kill that person. But most of the time, he's no longer angry. By the time they cry, say, okay, let's forget about it. And so I know we're laughing, but actually that is what patience is. When you are relating with people, what is the distance between your emotion and your action? When you get angry, what is your reaction? Can you just put a pause to it before you react? So again, staying out of jail is the last one, which is how do you stay out of jail? It's in one book that I read, it's about integrity, honesty, good character. Let people trust you. Let people know what you're doing. And point 6 is actually personal development. All these things require you reading books. It requires you studying, attend seminars like this. Find it out. Take responsibility for your personal growth. Find all these things out. Look for mentors. Look for coach. Look for champion, for sponsors. People that can speak for you when you are not there. People that will say, oh, she's just amazing. You need people like that in your life. You can't go it all alone. And so now talking about your self-mental barrier, really, which is really about our mindset. Remember that I said that stems from I can't, for example. You say, I can't. So you may want to replace that with I don't. All right. So instead of saying I can't do something, somebody give you cake. Maybe you want to lose weight and somebody's giving you a cake to have. So, oh, I would really love to do that, but I can't. Well, the problem is that at some point you're going to take that cake. All right. So I don't use the word I can't. Just say I don't. You are in charge. Okay? I don't. So the same with like I have to. No, you don't have to do anything. Instead of that, just replace it with I want to. All right. I want to do it. I want to study some book. I want to finish that book. So, don't say, I have to finish that book because it's really nice. No, I want to finish that book. You are in charge. You want to do it. Nobody's forcing you. All right. And that's very important. And the last one, as I round up, is please, whatever you want to do, whatever note you are taking right now and things that you are taking in today, the principles that maybe I've shared and the one that you've listened to, do it now. Okay, whatever that you are thinking of doing, do it now. There's a book I read many years ago. It says, eat that frog. And the whole thing is that do not procrastinate. Start now. Take responsibility for your career. Take responsibility for your relationship. That's include with God, with your spouse, and with your children, with your friends. Take responsibility how you use principles in life to ensure that barriers that anyone might create for you, you have already, actually overcome that within yourself. All right. And it makes the whole thing easy for you. And thank you for your time.